So the first thing we want to do when we tune a drum is we're going to take off the old head. Here in the shop we make it a little bit simpler for ourselves. We do have these available here at the shop. It's a bit key, so you can put it right into your drill. And obviously we change and tune a lot of heads, so it makes it a lot easier for us. We do have a suspension system on some people's drums of some kind. You want to be careful if you have a suspension system that you make sure it doesn't fall. You don't want it to hit your drum, so make sure you watch where that's going to go when you take the head off. You got the top head off. Let's take the bottom head off. Same as the top, but obviously we're not going to have any suspension system. And we have no heads on these drums, no rims, and we got to just make sure it's clean. So just wipe down the edge. You got probably dust and grime and gook. Okay. So now that we've got the drum heads off the drum, we're going to put on some new heads. We've got a G2 coated and a G1 clear as well. So we put the head down over the shell. You can see now that we have our rim or our hoop, okay? And then we're going to put that down over the head. Again, we've got the shell, the casing, the lug casing, okay? We have the swivel nut, the head is here, then we have the rim, then we have our tension rod that will go into our swivel nut. And as we turn that, that will tighten the head down. So there's just a quick definition of everything. The other thing you might want to do at some point is use some kind of lug lube, some kind of lubricant will work. I wouldn't use petroleum products. It's going to kind of bind up on the rods there. Alright, so again, we've got the lug lube, and what we're going to do, if it is this type of lube, okay, you're going to go ahead and just drop it into the swivel nut. And that is done. Finger tighten them down. Okay, so we finger tightened the tension rods onto the hoop. The head's all on there now. We want to make sure that we have an even spacing around. We want to make sure that the rim is evenly spaced around the shell. We want to make sure that it's not shifted to one side or the other. Once you find that you have everything centered, go ahead and just cinch it down a little bit again with your fingers so it doesn't move around too much, and then you can go from there. To begin with, I'm just going to go ahead and start bringing it up. I'm doing about a half a turn right now. As you can see, I went here, I'm going to cross, and I'm going to go around the drum like that. Okay, now I've gone basically a half a turn on every rod. Next thing I want to do is I want to check that we were talking about being square or centered on the shell. The other thing I want to make sure is that we have our bearing edge here. It's one thing I didn't mention earlier. Is the point I can show you on this side, is the bare edge point that the head is going to rest on. And we want to make sure that the head comes and is seated down far enough that we have contact on all points of that bearing edge. Okay, so once we do that, which we do on this drum, we can actually get into the tuning side of it. Pitch is going to be our friend here, so hopefully you've got some pitch understanding, at least knowing what's high and low, okay, and that will really help us here. We want to try to match our pitch right over every tension rod, in about, let's say, an inch off of the shell, right in line with that rod is going to be where we're going to find the best pitch for where that tension is. Now we do have a high spot here, okay. What I'm going to do instead of tuning that down is I'm going to stretch the head out a little bit and make sure it's seated a little bit more evenly first. So I'm going to put a lot of weight into this, so don't be afraid to do this yourself. I'm just stretching the head, making sure that it's seated evenly to make sure that none of these high spots are just because it's not set down consistently on the drum. I'll go back around with my fingers. You can hear the drums really change pitch. So a little bit high, but not nearly as bad as it was. When I'm checking my tuning, you're going to notice that I'm not only just going up or down. I might be doing a little bit of both. Okay, I'm gonna go down and come back up into it. It's close for now, and we'll leave it where it is. I'm gonna go ahead and put the other head on, and we'll go back and fine tune it a little bit more in a second. Alright, so now the top head, same situation on the top head. We're going with a coated double ply head versus the single ply clear head on the bottom, which is a very common situation. Alright, so we've got the head on here, and like I brought up earlier, we've got a suspension system, and we have our other rim. You notice that we have these gaskets on here, and these gaskets have to sit on, and I'll bring up another term that we've used already, these swivel nuts, okay? They're going to fit right in there. Alright, so the first thing we did when we put the head back on, we put the rim on, we put the tension rods into the swivel nuts. So once we get that finger tight, okay, the thing that we're going to want to do next is we're going to tune the drum. So as I'm doing that, again, I'm listening for the pitch. I'm also feeling the tension in my hand, and I'm just trying to make sure that that head settles correctly. Okay, so again, the drum is basically in tune. The top head is in tune with itself, essentially. The bottom head is in tune with itself. Now we want to check how they're in tune with each other, and then we want to go over some fine-tuning points. Now we're just going to hear how it sounds by itself, okay, without any fine-tuning. So hopefully this is still in the frame, okay. So for a quick tune, not too bad. Now we got to fine-tune it, okay, just like you got to balance a tire. I'm going to go to a stick now so I can hear a little bit more tone. So I'll start with the bottom head again. The reason I do start with the bottom head most of the time is it's a free vibrating head. There's no stick impacting it, there's nothing stretching the head while you're playing it, so it is truly just ringing freely, and that's what the sustain you're getting is really out of that bottom head. Now let's do the same thing with the top head. Okay, so let's listen to it again. Now, I don't know how it's reading on through the mic, but it's getting much more open. I'm going to play the top head. Okay, then I'm going to hit through the bottom head from this direction. Okay, now I'm hearing the top and the bottom in relation to where I'll be listening to it while I'm playing. So that's essentially it. Now, of course, we could go through and fine-tune this all day long. It is not a melodic instrument, so I will say that sometimes drums sound better out of tune than they do in tune, depending on the kind of music you play. So please don't spend hours and hours and hours tuning your drums and pulling your hair out. It's a learning process, and the more you do it, the better you get. So tune your drums. But the first and most important thing is play on them. Okay, have fun with what you're doing, and if you have any questions, again, feel free to call the shop, and we'll love to help you. Thanks.